This is the Kick-Ass Geek Cast, and I am your host, Daddy Warpig. I am back! The Kick-Ass Geek Cast for Wednesday, November 5th, 2014. Coming straight to you from the House of Geekery, specifically from a secret bunker buried miles beneath the House of Geekery, so we can avoid the drones of the antis trying to hunt us down. We are the Rebel Alliance, on the run from the big media sites, on the run from corrupt games journalists, and apparently on the run from ourselves. I'll get back to that a little later in the show. By the way, you can read the House of Geekery, daddywarpig.com, daddywarpig.com. It's an awesome blog all about geek-ocentric topics, and unlike most of my Twitter account or this show, it is about everything in the world other than Gamergate. It's a chance for you to read a post a day, kick back, take a load off, and relax. We'll get back to that later on in the show as well. Or you can follow me on Twitter at daddy_warpig, at daddy_warpig. One last thing, and you knew this was coming. If you like the show, share it with people that you know. There are like 30 buttons down there of social media. Click one of them, send it out, like it, or subscribe. I always welcome new viewers because I have good information. I am sharp, and I deliver that good information with a flair that few can match. So let me depress you for a moment. There was someone killed last night. This is not a gag. This is not a joke. This is not a build-up to something funny. It's really disturbing and sad. Someone was murdered last night, and the murderer uploaded pictures of it to 4chan, or half-chan, or that den of whack jobs and lunatics, whichever you prefer. I did not go and read the posts. I did not go and look at the pictures because, frankly, I have enough bad stuff from reading history. I don't need any more. It is sick, it is disturbing, and the first thought that went through my mind is, my God, that poor woman. What kind of sick son of a bitch would do something like this? Now, I would think, being me, that that's a normal reaction to murder. That most people, most normal people, would react that way. It's not the case, apparently. I just learned today, which is also something else I didn't need to know. Apparently, some people's first reaction to an actual, literal, real, live, flesh and blood person who is now dead, who is not alive anymore, who was murdered and left in a pool of blood, their entire life is gone. Everything they ever wanted out of life, wanted to do, wanted to see, wanted to feel, it's been wiped away. It's been erased. They will never have a chance to do any of that ever again. And apparently, the reaction of some people to this is not to say that is terrible. It's to say, well, it's really all about me. Me. And I'm sitting here reading these posts, and I'm thinking, what the hell is wrong with you? Let me read you one of them. Police investigating 4chan link to murdered woman. Gamergate, tell me again how my life isn't in danger. Murdered woman, dead. first thought of this person is to make it about her and blame Gamergate. That is from Brianna Wu. Now, those of you who have listened to the show before know that there are specific people I avoid mentioning because I don't really care about their opinions. I don't really care about their existence. They're not important to what I want to do by being involved in the consumer revolt currently occupying the Gamergate hashtag. And yet, in this case, I make an exception because what these people did is so vile that it, A, is newsworthy, it deserves discussion, and B, it is some of the lowest, scumbaggiest behavior I have been cursed to witness. And this is not the only one. Brianna Wu is not the only one. I give you Zoe Quinn, chief irrelevancy, and yet chooses to insert herself. Oh, great. Tell me again that death threats from channers who have my home address aren't a big deal. Me, 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 me. Now, I have archive.today links of both of these. I'll plop them in the commentary. And I was going to suggest that you should read the comments, but I'm going to take that back. You should not read the responses to these because if you're at all a decent human being, it will annoy you and depress you. But the comments are included underneath, some of them at least, and you certainly can read them if you want to be disturbed and depressed. And I'm going to go back in time to the 24th of October and bring in one more person. This is Anita Sarkeesian, and her first reaction to a mass shooting is to blame men, blame masculinity, and suggest that people buy a book she's invested in. I saw allegations she was getting money from it. I don't have any evidence of that because I didn't look, because again, these are people I don't really care about in and of themselves. They're irrelevant to journalistic ethics. But at the same time, they keep inserting themselves into discussion over Gamergate and keep on impugning the honor and integrity of the pros. So in this case, I'm going to name Brianna Wu, Zoe Quinn, Anita Sarkeesian. Response to actual real murders is to blame other people, not the murderer, to make it all about themselves, and to suggest people go buy a book that you reviewed and recommended and have an interest in. That is so disturbing to me on so many levels. And I feel almost paralyzed as a host, because it's my job to sit here and talk and give you the benefit of my experience, the benefit of my knowledge, the benefit of my opinion, to inform, to educate, and hopefully to entertain a bit. But I feel paralyzed in this subject because at the back of my mind, I'm just wondering, what the hell can I say? What the hell do I have to say? Isn't it obvious to normal, decent people that this is wrong? That life isn't all about you? That if your first response to an actual murder is to try and get attention for yourself, to try and make yourself out to be a victim, to try and garner sympathy, not for the victim, but for yourself, it's obvious to me there is something sick and wrong with you. And it's obvious to me that those people chiming in on the comments, on the responses, who agreed with this and even said things like, oh, you poor person, this must be so disturbing to you. So disturbing to her? What about the family of the murder victim? Don't you think it might possibly, somewhere, somehow, maybe be a little bit disturbing to them too? Possibly? Maybe? Am I out of line for thinking that? I would like to have some kind of long-winded rant about this, other than the short-winded rant I just gave you, but I don't. It's so wrong and so obviously wrong that I feel like there isn't anything more to say about it except this. I hope to God that whoever did this, that whoever was responsible, that whoever was guilty gets caught and prosecuted and punished to the full extent of the law. Murder is a grim and ugly crime, and you deserve to have every single punishment that we can legally mete out. Speaking of abrupt transitions, Oliver Campbell, whom you may know as Three Dog, who is a frequent poster and frequently has excellent advice and commentary on our consumer revolt, last night dropped a big bombshell. According to Oliver, and I happen to believe him, but I personally don't have proof. According to Oliver, a member of the law enforcement community, a member of the federal law enforcement community, got in contact with him and met him in person to pass along some simple basic information about Gamergate and goings-on thereof. In connection with Gamergate, the feds are aware of much of what has been happening, and at least two separate federal agencies are investigating different events connected with Gamergate. The FTC is investigating one, maybe two organizations, media outlets, for violating FTC rules related to disclosure of paid endorsements. I don't know. So that's one thing. The FTC is investigating some of the Game Journal pros, some of the major organizations, and he couldn't name names, and the source couldn't answer a lot of questions beyond the information that Oliver gave us. But some Game Journal Pro affiliated organization is being investigated by the FTC, which can only be good news for us. Because if we can get documented evidence of the corruption of some of these organizations, especially those who have acted maliciously towards us in the past, we will be able to establish beyond any reasonable doubt that our cause is just. They will no longer be able to lie or deny or obfuscate. That doesn't mean they won't try. They'll just find it a lot harder when the federal government is issuing subpoenas and investigating and things like that. The other organization involved was the FBI. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is investigating two individuals connected with Gamergate for death threats they made against themselves. falsified death threats. Now, before you jump to conclusions about who that might be, on his stream today, Oliver said something very interesting, which is this: don't immediately assume that both of them are antis. So, my conclusion I draw from that is that without being able to say so outright, it's possible that someone in our own ranks has been faking death threats for reasons I cannot adequately explain. Oliver also gave some advice to everybody involved in that, pro and anti, which is, if you're doing this, stop, because the government is investigating it, and it's wrong. And so I myself would like to echo that suggestion. In fact, I will go a little bit further. Whether you are pro or anti, if you're making death threats to yourself or other people, stop. Just stop. Don't even think about it. Just don't do it. If you are doxing people, pro or anti, stop. Just don't do it. Don't even think about it. Just stop. That's wrong. If you are otherwise badgering or harassing or heaping abuse on anyone, pro or anti, stop. Just stop. There are real people out in the real world who read what you write. And I know looking at a computer screen or looking at an avatar isn't the same thing as standing toe-to-toe with a person and telling them they're a misogynistic shitlord. For one thing, in the real world, that person can punch you in the face. But it's still a crappy thing to do. It's still a scummy thing to do. And you should be able to have the minimum basic decency to not do it. My personal policy is absolute rejection of all death threats, doxing, and harassment, no matter who it's coming from, no matter who it's directed at. I reject all of that. That is, however, a little bit different from just being an asshole. The internet being the internet, everybody ends up being an asshole at one time or another, often by accident. Just try not to do it quite so much. That's not a declaration of position or anything. It's just an individual suggestion. The reason why I suggest that is because although there have been some major names who have become neutral or even now consider themselves to be gamergaters, consider themselves to be pros, because of the good behavior of pros towards them, several other people have dropped out. Loudly or quietly, they've just left. The biggest one happened, I think, less than an hour ago. Because of whatever was going on, King of Paul left Gamergate. He left the pro side. He says he's no longer going to be participating. He's no longer going to be making videos about it or doing streams about it. He's done. He left a note in a twit longer blaming pros. Toxic abuse he says he has suffered at the hand of pros, up to and including death threats from a major pro figure with more than 10,000 followers. Now, I have to believe, based on all of the evidence other people have been giving us, there was a developer who came out as proudly neutral a week ago, and then, or 2 weeks ago, and a week after that, he said, what I have got from my declaration of neutrality and honesty was a bunch of pros congratulating me and thanking me for being fair. That kind of story isn't unusual. I've read people who created troll accounts to troll pro members. And all of those, and what they got in response was people reasonably disagreeing with them or ignoring them and walking away. These are things I've read. These are things I've seen. People time and time again saying how good pros have treated them, which is right. That's what we should be doing. And the fact that we are doing it is a credit. My opinion about what happened with King of Paul is that once you have a certain number of followers, it becomes really, really difficult to keep up with Twitter. Too many people, especially in Gamergate, we know how many tweets go out every day in the hashtag. They stop reading the hashtag and keep their reading down to a manageable level because they have a life to live. They have real things to go and do. And so my impression of this situation, despite his criticism of the toxic nature of pros, which I disagree with, I have not seen that. I believe that the group of people he chose to read, he chose to follow, gradually or quickly began to reflect negative attention back at him for reasons I don't understand, because I don't play in that crowd. Not my community. Because of that, he has a distorted view of what people on the ground are like, of what everyday, ordinary Gamergate participants, pros like me, like you, are like. Doesn't see what goes on in the hashtag, doesn't see what goes on with regular people, and so doesn't have that connection with the group. So I think he's wrong about the toxic nature of pros as a group. I think that he may be right about what kind of attention he was receiving, and it tore him down, and it depressed him, and it added stress on top of an already stressful life. So he's gone. He has publicly distanced himself from us and left a scathing note that will be used as ammunition against us. I do not wish to direct any ire at him or condemn him or attack him or accuse him. Just say, I'm sorry things went like that. I'm sorry that happened. If you ever feel like coming back, please come back. We'll be here. If you don't, I understand. We're sorry to see you go, King. We hope you come back again sometime. He's not the only one. I've seen a large number of people that were at one point prominent members of Gamergate. And let me explain. Back when I first started getting involved, which was, I think, about 2 weeks after the hashtag had garnered a lot of following and a lot of discussion, I asked around about what people would be good to follow to maximize the amount of information I got about what's going on. I got responses back. I added people to a list, a Twitter list, and I've been reading that Twitter list daily, literally, actually, every single day ever since. Which is why I feel like I have a good grasp on what the mainstream of the pro side is. It's also why I've been able to notice prominent people, and these aren't all pros. These aren't people who consider themselves part of Gamergate. Some of them are Christina Summers, Kathy Young, Kane, Eric Kane, Total Biscuit. These are just people who are involved, not people who are part of, who consider themselves part of the consumer revolt. But I have noticed many people that I added 6 weeks ago no longer posting, are no longer involved, or if they are posting, they're tweeting very, very rarely, as they're off doing other things. Some of them have dropped off entirely. And you may wonder if I have any criticism for them being at one point widely named by regular people as prominent, but no longer being actively involved. The chief coordinator of our email campaign just, apparently, I got this through secondhand sources, left. Do I have any criticism for them? No, I do not. I'm not going to castigate them or criticize them or anything. We are an all-volunteer group of individuals. You participate when you want, to the extent that you want. If you start up, we're happy to have you. And if you go, we're sad to see you go, but we understand if you need to do other things. You have no obligation to this consumer revolt other than that which you take on yourself, other than that which your conscience dictates. It is sad to me to see these people go, but I don't condemn them for it. I will say this, and this is something you might want to keep with you. Take time off. Send your emails. Other than that, take time off. If what you want to do and what you can do and what you're happy doing is engaging with aunties all day and giving them good information, great, do that. That's your thing, go with it. If you feel tired, if you feel stressed, if you feel overwhelmed, and all of these things King of Paul says he was feeling, then take time off. Get up, go outside, see your loved ones, go see a movie, take a vacation, go to a party, go dancing, play video games, read a book, get a massage. I don't know what you like to do, but it's very, very difficult, almost impossible for normal people to stay involved in a nasty, contentious battle like this, fight like this, indefinitely. All of us need to take time off. If time off for you is making cartoons, whether they're about Gamergate or not, then do it. You have jobs, you have relatives, you have a life. Take care of yourself. Take care of your life. No matter how much you care, remember that you're a real human being, and in the end, your own health is more important to you than what a bunch of other people are saying on the internet. Emails are the most important part of our revolt. They're what pressures advertisers, which is what pressures these media organizations. And they only take 6 or 7 minutes to send a day. Stop, take 6 or 7 minutes to compose and send some emails, and go on. Do what you do when you want to do it. Take time off, because we will be here when you come back. There are at least 15,000 of us on Twitter, which an auntie was gracious enough to establish recently, plus apparently 18,000 more on Reddit, and an unknown number on Infinite Chan. So that's over, just between us and Reddit. That's 33,000 pros. 33,000. You can afford to take some time off and let the other 32,999 of us handle it while you're gone. I promise you, we won't fall apart if you need to take the afternoon off. I'm your host, Daddy Warpig. This is the Kick-Ass Geek Cast, broadcasting every weeknight, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you love it, if you want some more, subscribe, click the little up thumb, or let your friends know so you can share the sheer joy of listening to this show. I appreciate every person who tunes in, appreciate every person who listens afterwards. You can also read my geek blog, The House of Geekery, daddywarpig.com, daddywarpig.com, or follow me on Twitter at daddy_warpig, at daddy_warpig. I am your incomparable host, letting you know that I am signing off for tonight, but I will be back.